do CAs get? People ask this a lot. The honest answer is they earn a lot. Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mpho. I'm a CA. I like to talk all things business, careers, property, life, anything really. So feel free to look around and maybe you'll find something that you like. Now, for today's episode, I'll be answering some of the common questions that I've gotten from people when they hear that I'm a CA. I did a video here on YouTube on whether being a CASA is worth it, and you guys seem to have liked that, so I'll link it somewhere up here. And some of the questions that I've gotten were as a result of that video. You guys sent me questions on the video. Some of you sent me questions privately on LinkedIn. So I'll be answering 4 questions that I have gotten that you guys seem to be interested in learning more about. So without any further ado, let's get started. I will be looking down because that's where my questions are. That's where my laptop is. But the first question that I got is, how do you actually become a CA? And I got this one even more recently. I'm going to give you guys 2 answers. The standard way that many of us know of, and then the non-standard way that I've gotten to know of as I've progressed in my career and as I've met people. So the standard way, you have to have taken maths and English, and you must have gotten 60% for those subjects. And I think you must also get an overall 60% average. And most universities actually have a BCom CA stream available from first year. So that's what you take, that's what you study. You do your 3-year undergrad, and then after your undergrad, you do your CTA. CTA actually stands for Certificate in the Theory of Accounting. So you do that for a year after your undergrad. And once that's done, then you do your articles for 3 years, during which you will write 2 board exams and cry many tears. But at the end of it all, you'll be a CASA. That's the standard way. It takes 7 years in total. We're all aware of that. The non-standard way. The first one is I actually did my CTA with a guy whose undergrad was in engineering. So he did 3 years of engineering. I actually can't remember which specific one at GCT. And then he did a bridging course, so a CTA bridging course at UJ. He did a CTA at UJ, so that's 5 years. And then he went on to do his articles for 3 years. And with 1 extra year, this person actually had an undergrad in engineering, a postgrad in accounting, and then was a CA, but their background was also engineering. I thought that was really cool. The other story that I want to share with you guys is I know many people who didn't get that 60% requirement but still wanted to be CAs. So they took the normal accounting route. So they did a normal or standard BCom accounting undergrad, and then they also did that bridging course to CTA, which is 1 extra year. They did their CTA, and then they went on to do their articles to qualify as CAs. The other way is people who decide to study through UNISA or part-time, and they decide to start their articles at the same time. So if you're doing your degree part-time, then you actually, instead of doing articles for 3 years, you take a 5-year contract. And you can do the contract whilst you're actually also studying your undergrad, whilst you're also studying your postgrad or whatever it is. So at the end of your training contract, you will also be closer to the end of your academic career. This is also important to note that to do articles, you don't necessarily have to have your CTA or have to have your degree completed. Many firms will call for this, but it isn't a saica requirement. As long as you can show to saica that whilst you're doing your articles, you also have this academic life that you're pushing, academic career that you're pushing, and you are making progress towards it. So you're not necessarily failing the whole time, or if you're failing, you have a plan to make it up, because I think you can't fail 1 year more than once or something like that. There's also people who've gone to work first and then decided that they want to start studying, but because they have already worked, they didn't want to do their articles for the full 3 years. And saica is, in certain instances, able to recognize prior learning that you may have heard for your training contract. I think the maximum that they actually recognize is 18 months. So this could cut down your training contract by 18 months. If you, let's say you're working currently at, I'll say Nedbank, because that's where I work, and you want to study, so you do your degree, you do all of those things, you pass your CTA, and then you decide that you want to now start your articles, you can reach out to saica and your training officer and actually have them give you back that time off. So instead of saying, okay, Mpho needs to do articles for 3 years, they can say Mpho has already worked for 7 years now. She only needs to do articles for 18 months. So that's what they call recognition of prior learning. As you can see, you guys, there's different ways of becoming a CA. I think if you really are considering it, whatever your circumstances are, the best way would be to reach out to saica, tell them what your personal story is, and see what advice they would have for you. The second question is, how much do CAs get? People ask this a lot. The honest answer is they earn a lot. That is the honest answer. But I actually want to give you guys more context onto this, and I'll also give you specific market numbers so that you aren't swayed about what people say. There are many surveys out there. One that is well known is by Robert Walters, and they actually do a survey of many individuals across many countries, including South Africa, and they put out the results, sort of benchmarking what your salary, and you can use this to benchmark whether your salary is in the right sort of range as you would expect it to be. But also the one other way that you could know whether you're being paid enough or not is to actually just ask a friend, the person that you do the same work as with, and that's already also paying respect to company policies and things like that. I know in South Africa especially, it isn't as easy to just go to the next person and ask how much they earn, but if you've got friends maybe outside of the company that you work for, maybe doing similar work to you, you can do that, you can ask them. We do have a long way to go when it comes to pay transparency. I'm of the view that people doing similar work, adding similar value should be paid similarly, but you know, that's just not happening. So at the same time, I'm aware of that, but my personal view would just be people must be paid for the value that they add. Speaking of the Robert Walters survey, so what you're seeing on screen now is the salary of a CA, and my parameter is that this person has 0 to 2 years of experience post-qualifying. This is how much they earn, between 550 and 750, and you can see this is such a wide range. You can fall anywhere in between, and obviously also remembering that a survey gathers data from a pool of people, and there'll be people who are earning way more than the 750, there'll be people who are earning under the 550. I also just want to mention that when you look at the landscape of careers and salaries, people don't have to be employed in corporate to make money. They don't have to be CAs, they don't have to be doctors. It's a changing landscape that we find ourselves in. But from a professional and corporate standpoint, yes, there's certain qualifications that pay more, but I think it's more also about certain industries that pay good salaries. For example, investment banking is one of those. So whilst investment banking is not reserved for CAs, I think people who work in investment banking, whatever their qualifications are, they get to stand to be paid really well. Then the difference is that as a CA, it's easier for you to get into those doors, to get through those doors and to be in those high-paying industries. But I think if you wanted to be in investment banking as an example and you're not necessarily a CA, that shouldn't put you off. There's really incredible people that I work with that are not CAs and they're amazing and they do the job really well. Like, I personally look up to them. So that shouldn't throw you off in any ways. But yeah, just to mention that, yes, having a qualification assists in putting you in, but it's not the end all be all. The next question I want to answer is from Mpho, and they posted on the last video I did about whether being a CA is worth it. And the question was whether I would consider sharing my journey, some of my successes and failures in a video. And you know what? That is a video on its own, but I wanted to touch on it here. Because we do hear of successes a lot of the time without necessarily the backstory that goes behind it. So my journey towards being a CA was interesting. It actually started on the second half of my matric year. So I was in matric when I learned of a CA for the first time. Before then, I had no idea what that was. Harold Nobeni, who now actually heads up one of the divisions at Bidvest, he came to our school to give a talk about his career. He was a CA, and the other thing that he mentioned was that he drove a Polo, and that hooked me. So just for some context, I grew up in rural Bushbuckridge, and back then, you know, there's certain qualifications that you see of. You're either a nurse, a teacher, a cop, and if you're really smart, you can be a doctor. So I wanted to be a doctor because I'm really smart. I wanted to be a doctor. And then for the first time, you know, I learned of a CA, and I wanted it because it was an opportunity to drive a Polo in a town where I was seeing Corollas and Fiestas, and I was like, this is what I want. I applied to study accounting at UJ, and it hasn't been easy, but it's been absolutely worth it. In terms of failure, I actually repeated my third year, and that actually was one of the most significant events in my career. So in repeating third year, I lost my bursary, which meant I needed to find work to actually be able to pay for my fees, to pay for my accommodation, to eat, and all of those things. So I found a job at Capitec as a client service champion. So that's the person who sits or stands by the door, and as customers walk in, you greet them, you smile, you ask them what they're there to do, and you give them a ticket. So that was me at 19 years old when I was repeating my third year. Yes, I was 19 and repeating third year. But that was me, and I spent the whole year doing that. I would actually start my day, including on Saturdays, because this is a bank and we opened also, Capitec is a retail bank, and we even opened on Saturdays. So I would start my day around 3 a.m. in the morning. I would study, and then at around 7 a.m. I would catch a bus to town, and then get to town, catch a connecting bus to Rosettenville. That's where my branch was. And I was like, could have gotten the Campus Square one, would have been perfect, but no, I got Rosettenville. Anyways, I would work from about 8 until 5, 5:15, because we needed to stay behind, tidy up and that. And then 5:15, I would run for that bus. I would run for the 5:15 bus and come back to UJ. Classes were starting at 6 and I was late for every single one of them. They ran from 6 till 9. And then at 9, I would walk back to my room, get home, have some dinner, study a bit, sleep, and the next morning it's back to waking up at 3 a.m. To this day, I actually still wake up at 3 a.m. for the most part, and it really stems from what happened in third year. But I'm gonna be honest, I actually dropped it when I did my honors year. You know, I was out of that routine of waking up at 3 a.m. But when I started working again, for some reason, I went back to it. So that's it. I'm mostly, for the most part, I wake up around 3 a.m. now. And it's because of that. It's because of having to have repeated my third year and needing the time, or not having the time to study during the day because I was working. But yeah, there's been many other successes I've made that whole year worth it. Luckily, I haven't failed anything again after that. But yeah, that's where it started for me. And there's so much more to share. And like I said, it'll be another video on its own, because there's been many wins, there's been many lows as well. But yeah, that's the one significant moment I think back to, and I always want to tell that story. Anyways, look out for that video. I do promise it's coming and I'll make it happen. Okay, the next question that I have is, what advice do I have for aspiring CAs? I love this question because it's also advice that I have for myself. I come back to these words, these thoughts every single time. And it's that being a CA is like a master key, you know, that key that opens many, many doors. We need to look at it like that. The mistake that many of us make is that we open a door and we think that's what we need to do. That's not true. What I want many young CAs to start doing is to look at it as a master key. It can open many doors, but you need to know what's behind the door that you're looking for. And until you find it, open as many doors as you can, and also do some internal work, but don't settle in terms of, you know, I'm a chartered accountant, so what I need to do is accounting. There's people who are great at accounting. I'm not one of them. And even in the jobs that I've taken post articles, they haven't been accounting jobs. The qualification can open a lot of doors that you're not even thinking of if you actually just allow it. But yeah, know what you want, what's behind the door that you're looking for, or at least what's not behind it. So that when you open and you see debit, credit, you're like, this is not it, right? Knowing what you don't want helps you with getting to what you want. So for me specifically, I love property. I love learning. I love teaching. But also I love things that are inclusive. So my whole career mission is all about doing the things that I love, while at the same time making sure that nobody's left behind. And that is such an exciting challenge for me. So I want many young CAs or aspiring CAs to keep that in mind, to just continue looking for what they're looking for, to continue being curious, to continue learning, and not just be stuck on an idea of what being a CA means, an idea of what being an accountant means. It means a lot more if you actually open up to it and allow yourself to find all of those different opportunities. That's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section. Are you a CA? Do you want more CA content? Do you have specific questions that you would like for me to answer? Let me know in the comment section. And also, if you want to reach out on LinkedIn, I'm trying to be active there as well. So do follow me on LinkedIn as well, or send me a connection request. But yeah, until next time, keep well.